Okay, recording in progress, everybody. Welcome to the October 2023 meeting of the Ballpark Community Council. This is our second hybrid meeting in this location. Is that accurate, folks?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the board members who are joining us together here in person and virtually, which I think is all of us tonight. That's exciting. Hello, my name is Amy Hawkins. I get to serve as chair of this robust community organization. It's a pleasure. And sitting next to me is...
I'm Doug Feigler. Have been serving for a few years now. I live by Jefferson Park.
In the audience is...
Jeff Sandstrom, happy to be here again tonight.
I hope everybody can hear it. We're again using a mic dangling from the top of the room. So please let us know in the chat if you're having trouble hearing, and we'll try to speak more directly to it. This is a little bit of a mystery how well we can be heard. So thank you for giving us that feedback. Audio is good. I'd love to hear it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I'm Fraser Gelson, been on the board for just a few months and live on West Hampton.
Great, excellent. Okay.
Do you want to hit your got it button?
I don't know what my got it button is. Oh, it's sorry, that's not actually available on my screen. That's so curious.
It might be behind your screen.
Well, that's a darn shame. I wonder how I can get to it.
I think that if you minimize the big thing, it might cover it.
You know, that's a great idea, but I just got a pop-up that says I cannot minimize Zoom when I'm recording this meeting.
Try and shift it over time.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm technical supports. Hybrid meetings are hard.
It is not that is not showing up in any way. So I'm
Is
good.
it tied to this mouse and keyboard?
Oh, it is tied to that mouse and keyboard.
If you want to introduce Kevin over.
All right. Kevin, would you please introduce yourself? I think you're joining us online this evening. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Hopefully you're in a place where you can. Maybe Kevin's not in a place where he can currently unmute. Anyway, we are also...
I'm Kevin Claunch. I'm here virtually, unfortunately. Could not be in person today.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kevin. All right. Okay. Let's share a little information and then I'll bring on... Maybe let's just go straight to Detective Fallows. Detective Fallows, are you available to chat? Are you with us?
Absolutely. Always.
You sound so clear.
Good. That's awesome. All righty. For those that don't know me, I'm Detective Sam Fallows. I'm the community liaison detective. For the city, I cover districts 5, 6, and 7. Of course, Ballpark is in District 5. So tonight, I'm going to give a few crime updates for the neighborhood. We haven't done that in a little bit, so we'll do that. And then go over some highlights and talk about some larger incidents that happened in the neighborhood over the last few days, over the last couple weeks, and then take any questions. So if you're online, you have any questions, please just throw them up in the chat, and I'll get to them at the end here. So as most of you know, we report on Part 1 and Part 2 crimes to each of our community councils. So for the specific to the Ballpark area, to the Ballpark Community Council, we had 488 Part 1 and Part 2 crimes for the month of... The most recent data I could get is August because they haven't uploaded September's yet. So this will be for August. September should be up in the next, probably Monday, but unfortunately it's not there yet. Kevin, I will be talking about that. So, but yeah, so for the statistics for the neighborhood, they kind of stay about the same month to month when we look at the top crime types, but we definitely saw some larceny and thefts. There was about 126 of those, some drug abuse cases. I know that we've seen more and more kind of open use and stuff like that in the neighborhood. There were 53 of those. There was 39 simple assaults, 21 vandalisms. So we're seeing kind of a lot of for the higher type calls or volume wise, we're seeing more kind of property type crimes. But of course, we have our major incidents that occur in Ballpark. And so to talk about, we'll go ahead and just cover the Main Street Motel first, because I'm sure people have questions about that. So it was, I believe, yesterday evening. Is that what it was, Amy?
It was actually Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. That's right. I apologize. So Tuesday night, our officers were in the area of the Main Street Motel and recognized a stolen motorcycle. And so they got some information that the suspects were inside a specific room. Based on the information we had, they believe there was like a knife involved and possibly a barricaded situation. Our SWAT team was called. So just so everybody understands, that's what our policy dictates for the Salt Lake City Police Department. We always use an abundance of caution when it comes to officer safety and citizen safety. And so due to the information we had at the time, it was decided to call out the SWAT team. So the incident itself wasn't super scary, right? It was a stolen motorcycle, but what it could have been was what was the reason for the police response that we had. Then after they had were able to get into the room and clear it, it was found that the suspects had somehow got out of the room, possibly through like a hole in the ceiling or something like that. So right now, I cannot give out any kind of specific suspect information, but what I can tell you is we do have the male suspect. There's a male and a female. The male suspect has been arrested and is in custody. The female is still outstanding, right? Well, as of the last that I knew a couple hours ago. So, yeah, so essentially because of the information we had, the possibility that there was weapons involved and the possibility that there was a barricaded subject in a room, that is the reason that we had such the large police response and the SWAT team and things like that. So, are there any questions or any follow-up that anybody wants to ask on that specific incident? And I'll see if I can answer it.
I'm interested, Detective, about the response of the owner to the Main Street Hotel when these kinds of activities happen. You know, we've got concerns that it's been for sale and that it will be basically shuttered with one person staying there overnight. I mean, that doesn't sound to me like a great option, and I'm just wondering what activities you're anticipating to try and reduce the amount of activity we can anticipate there.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm definitely, so me and Amy have been talking quite a bit about this subject. And I'm talking, so I know Amy's been in contact, but I've also been speaking to, so we're going to be getting basically a bunch of different city partners involved. It won't just be the police department, because there's no way that, we're going to have a lot of people involved to keep it safe. If it does, in the event that it does like actually shut down and close. So part of that will be, we'll get the civil enforcement involved. I will be involved in working with trespass affidavits and coordinating, like our bike unit and things like that to keep an eye on when they can and or patrol. So I've already been in talks with my captain about putting together plans for if or when it does close, to keep that area, like you're saying, free from the problems that could arise if it does become a hotbed of just, people breaking in and starting fires and things like that. So, fortunate or not, I have experience with this, with the major street homes, with doing things, to mitigate the issues. So, we might be looking, just at different options on how to mitigate the problem, but for sure it's on the radar and we're making plans to keep it safe. And, that's already in the works now. So I appreciate that question. It's a good question.
Thanks.
I can add to that a little bit. I met with Corey Christensen today with civil enforcement in Salt Lake City. He's head of civil enforcement to speak specifically about the Main Street Motel because I've been getting a lot of questions about what's going to happen to it. And yes, everybody is clear that it will close on November 1st. And they've been working with the health department as well to shut down individual rooms. Once the building is boarded, which will happen when it is closed on November 1st, then civil enforcement can take a greater step in being involved with it. And Corey Christensen said, to the extent that you see any problems with it, please call often, and the civil enforcement link into the chat so people can click on it and check out the contact information there. The building deal is currently under litigation, and that's public information. So it is not, the sale is not complete. So I think it's going to be really important for the community to be proactive about calling civil enforcement when we see things that need to be called on. I think one of the reasons why we were so successful as a community in getting the major street homes demolished as quickly as we did, because I know it was quite dramatic, right? Having 5 fires in a month was very dramatic. But those homes were down by January 1st, and that was a very good thing for our neighborhood. It would be great if we can avoid needing to go into that sort of situation, but it's important to have strong evidence of what happens at that address to take appropriate action when it's necessary.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback on that a little bit as well. So if you do call civil enforcement, please make sure it's things like, you know, you see that the building is unsecured, or you see that if it's a police matter, you know, call civil enforcement, but call the police first, you know. But then you can still call civil enforcement and say like, hey, we saw people breaking into the building, it's unsecured. But I don't want you to just call civil enforcement if it's a police matter that needs to be addressed as well. Just throwing that out there for the community. So
Absolutely.
because they're obviously they're not going to be able to deal with anything that's police related. And then feel free to reach out to me or Amy, and Amy can reach out to me, and we work together a lot on these kinds of things anyway. So we'll all just kind of partner together and just keep a really close eye on things and utilize the resources we do have and the experience that we have already to just make sure that, you know, the location does not just blow up into what we don't want it to be. So yeah. And then I want to answer Kevin's question. Data is useful for people who live in the neighborhood. How can we access updates and understand what is happening in our neighborhood when such events arise? So there are a few different ways that you can do so. Number one, generally on larger events, our police department puts out releases and gives information. Sometimes not a ton, sometimes quite a bit. So one way you can do is by following us on Twitter, and then on our website. And Amy is a guru with all this stuff, probably better than I am even, but she is really good at, but there you can go and you can actually see the calls for service for the last, is it 48 hours, Amy?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see every call for service for the last 48 hours on the website. And that gives you, it gives you some data. It gives you like the type of call for service and a case number. And then if you're really interested in like wanting to get more information, you can take that case number and that data with that date and time, and you can submit a public records request to get like in-depth information. And then on top of that, we also have our CompStat reports that are online as well to get released. Those are more, they're a little less neighborhood and more, a little bit more district related. So it'd be District 5 is most likely what you'd see. But it is a way to kind of see the crime data in the area. So Amy's put some links up there as well for those things. And then I've got some helpful links that I've put up as well, just for different things that I find helpful for my neighborhoods.
I'd also like to add that Detective Fallows has been really helpful in brainstorming with us about a capital improvement program grant. And we are targeting the alley that runs to the Main Street Motel from behind the Utah Pride Center on Main Street. I think lots of you who frequent that area of the Ballpark neighborhood are aware that there are a lot of inactive properties on that stretch right now, and arguably the Utah Pride Center itself right now is unfortunately not as active as it used to be. And so we're very interested in pursuing some safety solutions to that alley. Detective Fallows conducted what's called a SEPTED review of the alley in August. Do you want to, lots of us in this room know what SEPTED means by now, but crime prevention, go ahead. What is it?
So no worries. So we've given a lot of attention to that alley. So on my end of it, I did, like Amy said, a SEPTED review. So SEPTED, it's CPTED. It stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And the idea behind it is essentially you take the environment, the outside environment of a building, like such as lighting, trees, bushes, entryways, natural pathways to the business. And in this case, for the alleyway, the more important things were like lighting, foliage, trash, stuff like that. And I went through a course and a training, and you kind of give some professional recommendations and put together a presentation. And so that was part of what the department did that I was tasked with to kind of help with this alleyway. And then also just want to shout out to our East Side Bike Unit. They're phenomenal, and they have been hitting that alleyway every single day. And every day they work, I should say. And they have done a phenomenal job of trying to keep it as clear as they possibly can. I've also worked with Sergeant Christensen and as well on my own to kind of try and get Advantage Services. I'm still working on getting that to be a regular location to be clean. They've got some staffing issues, and they're just a couple of crews for the whole entire city, but I am working on trying to get that to become like a regular address that gets cleaned once a week or so, or at least weekly, hopefully. But I did have it just recently. Advantage Services just recently went there, we believe it was 2 days ago, and did a clean in the alleyway. So we're definitely taking that one serious as well, and doing everything we can to kind of help with that alleyway. So and to help with that CIP grant, which will help you all with that. So yeah, any questions on that? Or any questions in general that anybody wants to ask me?
It looks like Kevin has a question in the chat about some prowlers.
Yeah, so no, Kevin, we're not noting anything on Facebook. We do not track anything on Facebook, Nextdoor, any of those types of things. So if you guys are having issues in your neighborhood, you need to call our dispatch number. And what I suggest doing is if it is someone who's prowling in the area, kind of a suspicious individual, or obviously we're looking for like what they're doing, right? We want to get a description, but what are the actions they're doing that are suspicious? That's what's important to us. Are they looking into windows? Are they trying door handles? Are they walking up dark driveways? And then walking back out with like a bike, obviously like something very obvious, or something not so obvious per se, but what is their actions? But if you're seeing those things, especially if it's something like, if you're watching someone break into a car, then you can call 911 on that. Like that's an active in progress crime. That's okay. If it's just someone who you're noticing is walking through the neighborhood and you've seen them look into a few vehicles and maybe try a door handle or two, you're welcome to call that in as, a suspicious person. But we do not monitor Facebook or any other social media service to like keep track of those things. We just don't have a way to do that. So yeah, if you're seeing things, please call it in, because that will be helpful. And I understand sometimes we can't always get there right away, and that's frustrating. But for my side of things as the community liaison detective, I say call regardless, because no matter what, eventually an officer will respond. And even if it is after the fact, unfortunately, and even if the individual's gone, unfortunately, maybe they went to a nearby neighborhood, or maybe they went, somewhere nearby, and the officer driving through will find them, or at a minimum, it will get an officer into your neighborhood, which will basically act like an extra patrol and that kind of stuff. So I don't look at like every call for service that comes in to the Ballpark neighborhood, so I'm not 100% sure. Like if they called it in, then yes, we're aware of it for sure. But if it was called in directly to the police department, yes. And on that too, within Ballpark, we have several hotspot locations that our officers check every shift, multiple times per shift. We have larger locations that are kind of hotspot driven as well, where our officers stay in the area, try and do extra like on view activity, meaning like they go out and find, crimes or issues in progress themselves. So they witness it. And that's happening all the time. And that is in the Ballpark neighborhood. And there's several addresses that throughout the Ballpark neighborhood that we go to multiple times a shift. So that is happening as well.
There's no address associated with it, but one of those locations happens to be the alley, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, our bike unit has hit that multiple times. I've also requested just from patrol sergeants that I work with to help me out to have their guys go and hit it when they can later on in the evening hours when we don't have a bike unit on. So yeah, yeah, the alleyway exactly is not necessarily one of those addresses, but it has been given a lot of attention. Exactly. Yeah. And so if you, to that point, perfect point there, Amy, if you are seeing a specific address that's having a lot of extra issues, you can also reach out to me as your community liaison, and I can kind of coordinate and get some stuff going on that as well. So I'm a resource for you to use, and I'm happy to help in any way I can. If you're seeing that kind of stuff, just let me know.
Okay. Thanks for signing on and answering questions, Detective Fallows. Anything from the folks here? All right. Have a good evening, Detective Fallows. Stay safe out there.
All right. Thank you. Y'all reach out anytime.
All right. I'm going to unmute Priya. Ask her to be co-host, actually. Priya was one of the folks in our neighborhood who received a grant to, hi Priya. Whoop, gotta turn it
Hi,
on.
there we go.
Priya received a micro grant from SLC Green to start a community garden in her backyard, which I believe is where she's speaking to us from right now.
Yep. And I thought I'd just kind of showcase what we did with it. We basically put in we have some friends visiting too, neighbors, but we put in a lot of trellises, and half of it's taken down because of the season, but all the boxes and trellises and dirt, we were able to fulfill through the grant, and some free things as well that we got from the neighborhood. And
are you interested in having more folks participate in your community garden? What's the timeline like here?
yeah, so usually we have the garden running until October, and then in the winter months we'll have either a virtual or in-person meeting to discuss what we want to grow. We'll review what we grew last year, and what we like to eat is what we focus on so it doesn't go to waste. And currently we have 5 members. I think 3 of them are going to stay for next year, the rest aren't. And so with those members, I think maybe 2 of them, no, I should say only 1 of them lives in the Ballpark neighborhood. And so with it being the only community garden in our neighborhood, I would love to have people who actually live in the Ballpark neighborhood participate if they're interested. So I can put in my contact info in the chat, and if anyone's interested or you know someone who's interested, I can get in touch with you.
Sounds great. Sounds like Erica might be interested. I hear you have Crenshaw melons right now, and that they are excellent.
These are some of the baby Crenshaw melons right here. But, we also have one ripened one that we're probably going to cut up later tonight if anyone wants to come stop by.
Fantastic. it's a public meeting, so you don't have to share your address, but if you wanted, feel. I don't
Yeah, I
even.
don't know. I don't know how long we'll be staying out here, so that was maybe a casual invite. But I'd love to have you guys in the future.
Invite for Mellon. All right, Priya, thanks for letting us know. You're also next door to one of the more incredible gardens in the neighborhood at Merrimack and West Temple. And everybody can go buy produce from that garden every week at the Saturday market, which is pretty amazing.
They also sell at the Sunday market down at Wheeler Farm. And their Instagram is, I think, Orendra Farms.
Yep.
Yeah, they're great.
All right. Sounds like you got some folks who are interested in the chat. So thanks for
I'll put my contact info in there for you to reach out to me.
Perfect. Thanks for zooming in from your garden. That's pretty cool. All right. And let's see. Oh, looks like Josh and Roche were going to give us an update from Team Trash as well. Let's see if they're available.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
They're actually with me, so I'm just gonna pass it over.
All right.
Hi, thanks for letting us chat. So my name's Josh. My partner Roshni and I have been running trash pickup on Monday nights. We are moving the time forward a little bit to 6 o'clock just to accommodate for the daylight. We'll do this for a few more weeks while we've got good weather. And we have seen an uptick in people coming to help out. So I really appreciate that. Everyone that's come out to help. Amy and I had a really good conversation with the mayor at the Ballpark block party. And we are hoping that the city will be able to provide us with more supplies, particularly trash pickups, trash pickers, and trash bags. So my hope is that people come, they see what we're doing, and then they take this to their little part of the Ballpark neighborhood, because we can't cover the whole area. We are on foot, we're walking, we're only out for about an hour, so we really just kind of cover a few block radius. So my hope is that people that come from a little bit farther away are able to have some supplies to get this started around their homes. We meet at Roja, so the area that we cover is typically up and down Main Street, the alleyway that was discussed earlier, Major Street, and kind of between 13th and 17th. So I really hope that people come and they enjoy meeting people in the neighborhood, and then they can take this to their little spot that's a little bit closer to where they live. And I would be happy to help facilitate any of that. So we're in the process of trying to get more supplies. Amy has been very helpful in that conversation. The mayor has now been a part of that conversation. So I really think that we could start to see some more supplies being added to what we've already collected. So.
Nothing's more satisfying than picking up a big old pile of stinky trash, huh, Josh?
Yes.
Maybe one is starting in the Jefferson Park area.
Oh, that is fantastic.
It's been an informal group, but we're getting more formal.
Do you have like a day of the week that you and time?
I think so. Yeah.
You think? Sorry.
Oh, no, I was chiming in on that.
Yeah. Alice coordinating it. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But yeah.
Okay. Well,
There's a group that cleans Jefferson Park every morning. But this is more in the surrounding area.
got it. We'll pass the info along, and yes,
We'll put it on the website.
Hey, Treasure, how does the work, all of the wood chips we put in there, does it look like it still looks good, or is
At
it?
the Jefferson Park, the little park.
Actually, not the.
that's the ballpark
That's
playground.
Yeah. Haven't been there, sorry.
Actually, that brings up kind of a concern that we might segue nicely into Connor's presentation, something that Josh and Roche have observed at the ballpark playground. The wood chips look great. But there's been some vandalism to the trees in that area. And since we're sort of discussing green space, I thought this might be like if worth incorporating into a discussion about green space. We've been trying to seek help from the city's urban forestry about what can we do about it, because it hasn't been a one-off instance. Josh, is that right?
That's correct. We've seen vandalism. I think it started around June, and most recently was just about a week ago.
Yeah, and our forest canopy in our neighborhood is not as robust as most neighborhoods in the city to begin with.
Vandalism is
They strip the bark off the trees. And so that makes them, yeah, it's really sad to see, like with knives.
I think about 5 trees have been torn out of the ballpark trees over this, since they've been put in 2 years ago. But the city came and did cut down the 3 that were sort of just had been stripped and had their branches broken off.
These are more mature trees in that ballpark playground, so it's especially disappointing to see.
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is call forestry and they'll come and try and help them. They wrapped some of the trees in the Jefferson Park. So they might put some wrapping around them.
Mhm.
But if they're made aware of it, they do come and do health checks.
They have been, but we'll keep on giving a nudge, and Kenna Powers would like to be unmuted, so I'm asking to unmute them. I'm assuming.
Hi.
Hello? We can hear you.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally hit it. I don't have a question.
Oh,
Sorry.
no problem. Okay, well, thank you from Priya's Yard. We've appreciated hearing from you.
All right. Well, thanks for having us.
I'm a little bit jealous that they're sitting like in the backyard
Let's see. Okay, Connor, would you like to take the lead here? I'm gonna move. But let's see, I've also, while sitting here, I've received a message from Chief Brown, and he wanted to let us know again about the arrest of the one person from the Main Street Motel. So that's pretty hot off the presses information. I know folks who on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, when we found out that the suspect had escaped from the motel, folks reached out to me to say, like, well, what do they look like? You know, we want to see something, say something, but if we don't know what we're looking for, you know, we can't be part of the solution. So I reached out to Chief Brown to say, is there any way that we can find out the names or photos of the fugitives, because we want to be a partner in this situation. So then I found out, now we found out there's an arrest. So that's something positive, I think. That's like about green space, isn't that, Connor?
Yeah, I think so.
Totally.
It's all relevant.
Yeah,
for
good.
sure.
Okay,
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
please do.
Station mode. Okay, great. I can get rid of that.
I don't think you can.
Uh, That's okay. I think we can see it pretty good. So hello, everyone. My name is Connor Stone. I'm a student at the University of Utah in doing a master's in city and metropolitan planning. And for my second year of the master's, I'm doing a professional project. And through my kind of previous professional experience, personal interest, I really wanted to do it on green spaces in some form or another. I'm also a urban planning intern with GSBS Architects, which has some experience with the neighborhood. In 2021, they were working on the station area plan for Ballpark, which was just adopted last year in 2022. And then now we're a part of the Ballpark Next community engagement initiative. So I've been spending a lot of time with that. And so I guess I'll just start off with a question. When someone says green space, what comes to mind if anyone has any ideas?
Things that need water.
Things that need water. That's a good answer.
Places that,
Not in a bad way.
in this desert,
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
places that are good for our lung health.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Places to recreate.
Places to recreate. Yeah,
Places to take my dog.
awesome. Yeah, well, those are all accurate answers and definitely more diverse than the set of answers I thought I was gonna get, because I think a lot of people think about green space as just parks. But you know, they really can do a lot more than be just parks. Green space amenities, you know, can be anything from a center median to you know, a multi-use path with greenery. So yeah, it can be a lot more than just parks, and I think that's a big reason why I'm here. With you know the
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
So part of the whole Salt Lake School District, school closure plan that is really related. They're utilizing, you know, they're calling green space schools,
Mhm.
churches, things like that. Is that, did you incorporate those into your plan?
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely part of it, you know, any open space that has a natural element to it, whether it's grass, whether it's native vegetation, anything, you know, I think anything that isn't concrete or asphalt absolutely counts. So that can be considered as an asset. You know, it has to be accessible to the community, of course. If it's private, it's a little harder for just your average person to access and consider as usable green space. So here, yeah, I already covered this. So a little more about this effort. So really, it's a consolidated effort to kind of understand both Ballpark and Central Ninth communities, their attitudes and desires surrounding green spaces. I mean, I think it's pretty evident that you know you have the whole stretch of commercial development along I-15, and there's not a whole lot of trees compared to other parts of the city. And so this first photo at the top here is near Jefferson Park. I was browsing on just Google Street View, and I noticed that crosswalk, you know, kind of makes it challenging to access that park. If you're a pedestrian and you live in the area, it might, you know, deter someone from wanting to do so and feel safe. And then the picture below is just an example of, you know, a vast swath of an area that, you know, hopefully, you know, can consider green space in the future. And then these are just some comments from the Ballpark Next engagement online website, their interactive map. And these were really kind of the comments that gave me the purpose for doing this project. And that I, you know, with my work experience, I heard this a lot in the Ballpark community and thought it would be a really useful and interesting topic to address.
Man, what kind of jerk said that about the shade trees?
Yeah. So just some goals and objectives that I hope come out of this plan. I want to just establish like the neighborhood's vision for green space. There's a lot of planning efforts that have gone on over the past few years in the area, but nothing so tailored to green space, which is a pretty pressing need in the area. And then second is, you know, I kind of want to take the ideas that I hear and collect through surveys and previous planning efforts and kind of create a framework for how those community ideas that are kind of all agreed upon can move forward and, you know, influence future open space or green space decisions by the city and private landowners. And then really just to connect you all to one another and kind of keep the momentum with, you know, creating the neighborhood and area that you guys envision and hope for. And I just hope to set the basis for that to continue well after I'm through with the project. Just to give you a sense, there have been some other student planning projects in the neighborhood. 2020, a class that I just took this past spring, plan making did the ballpark master plan. And this map on the right is something that came out of it, which is a walk shed map. So as you to parks, so the darker kind of, I guess, more red circle in the middle is it signifies a quarter-mile walk to a park. So everyone that lives within that is within a quarter-mile of each of those parks listed. And then the outer ring is a half-mile. So that was an interesting lesson that kind of came out of that plan. And like I said, just kind of building into that, I don't use the word narrative, but like the understanding of a lack of green space available. And then some of these other plans, like the 9-line trail, has had some student influence. Mid-block crossings downtown, which there's a lot of green space considerations in that plan. And then the Liberty Wells neighborhood plan, I contributed to the green spaces portion of that plan in this spring. So that's a neighborhood plan. I don't know that it's available online, but if anyone's interested in looking into that, seeing kind of a similar application to what I'm doing now, I'd be happy to share that. Now, kind of want to do something just briefly. I brought some maps, and I think it would be interesting to learn kind of, I don't need your exact address or where you live. Everything I'm doing is completely anonymous, but it would be fascinating to kind of understand a general area of where you live, and then if you could draw a shape around what you understand to be your neighborhood. On the maps, the neighborhood boundaries are included, but I don't want you to use that unless you do feel that those exact boundaries are what is your neighborhood. So you have freedom to kind of draw a shape around what you feel your neighborhood is. So pass these around. I did bring some of these as well. We go grab them all the way up.
Would you like us to take some photos of each one in maybe community locations we visit?
Yeah, if you're already going there, you can take them. That's great. Yeah. They kind of turned out blurry. My printer didn't work great, so. They scan. I tested. They scan.
Sure. Thank you.
You want any of these? And then also for everyone online, I didn't realize how many people would be online, so
I apologize.
no worries at all. I think,
Got about, we can see.
yeah, maybe we can think of an online way to do something similar to this mapping exercise. Thanks.
Thank you. The Liberty Wells plan is on one.
It is?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. For a while, students didn't have access to us, so we're.
Oh.
Yeah.
Backward. But not on her.
You want to hand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are you meeting with the 300 West? I've got the central point stationary plan to talk about the reach space elements in that plan.
I haven't, my area is essentially the ballpark and central ninth, but I think.
That's in.
Yeah, but to have an additional conversation with that group would be useful as well. And then, yeah, the idea with the mapping exercise was that I'll kind of combine all of them, and kind of see where the common, you know, activity areas are, where a lot of you guys are visiting or interacting. So hopefully something cool can come out of that. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions or anything?
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
It was a great project.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of it, and happy to hear what you guys all have to say.
Are you using any data that was collected from the surface temperature mapping exercise earlier this year, over the summer?
Yeah, so I'll utilize urban heat island is obviously a very prevalent, and I know you sent me that image of the map that showed that, and it was very evident that this area in your summer months is extremely warm, and so that will definitely factor into the type of analysis, and combined with the feedback I get from you all.
We had a comment on the chat asking if you can hand out the link in the chat so that, because they can't use the QR code.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. The Liberty Wells project, is that what we showed at the District 5 Town Hall? With all the summer?
I would assume so, yeah. I wasn't aware whether that was presented after our classes through it, but yeah, I would assume that that was the Liberty Wells neighborhood plan. So.
Okay, I think that might be a good transition into, I wanted to remind folks of a couple different zoning things that are going on right now. Just because, gosh, it'd be great if we could, if you're signing on to this meeting, for heaven's sake, please take a few minutes to just fill out these surveys and share your input, because if you sign on to these meetings, you're informed, you have opinions. Please continue to share them, not just on, you know, social media, but get it into the surveys that last, like Connor's, but also these official city surveys. So just a quick review here about what's going on. Do that and then we'll share the screen. So I'm going to check our votes on this. Work maybe sort of. All right. So the image on that we stuck on today's meeting, these are two alternative scenarios of the 300 West Central Point plan. And I think maybe, I hope for folks who live on West Temple in between 1700 South and 21st South that you have heard about these open house events and that you've gone to them or that you've gone online and participated in them in some way, but I just wanted to go over them quickly. And I cannot see the chat while I screen share, so if somebody would like to alert me if there's anything important, thanks. But before we get there, I did want to thank the folks who came out to our block party in the ballpark last Friday. It was truly great. I loved seeing folks coming out and playing. Folks who encountered me there, they got to, that I got to live the dream. Put on a Smith's produce costume. I got to be in the carrot. It was terrific. But it seemed like lots of people had a good time. Saw lots of our elected officials out there. Every mayor candidate visited. I just thought it was a really pleasant time for everybody. Maybe we can have one last hurrah in the ballpark around this time next year. I think that would be really great to celebrate what the space has meant in the neighborhood. Verizon and Nextdoor, thanks if you're listening. I don't think you are at the moment, but I've reached out to them to visit and say like, hey, what do you think the metrics were about? I think there were maybe about 200 people there who came through, might be more or less. But it was also great that we had Fit to Recover's new food truck present and interacting with the neighborhood. So great that we know that Project 789 is there. It's available for you to schedule for your events. That's terrific. But yeah, so the Ballpark Next community visioning process is happening. Several of the folks I'm sitting with in this room tonight, I sat within a room last night and we went through some of this, what is some of the feedback that we're getting from the survey so far. The survey is going to be the first survey, which has 3 questions, is going to be open through tomorrow night. If you're on this meeting, you can answer 3 questions. Get on there. Tell us what you need, because we're still at I think we're in the build on community feedback part of the plan now, but we are here, we are meeting, we are incorporating feedback in a big way. So we need to have it, and you have it. So get on Ballpark Next, get started, get on Ballpark Engage, which also leads to Ballpark Next, and do it. If you're like, I don't have time to do the survey and the map, that's fine. The map stays open. Just do the 3-question survey before the end of tomorrow. 3 questions, guys. But apparently people are looking at the map. Connor's looking at the map. He just screenshot the map and showed it to us. People are looking at the map. So if you have specific feedback about specific sites that you want to give back, do it. Put it on there. It's not too difficult. I wouldn't do it on a smartphone. That's a little difficult, but it's really easy on a laptop.
Excellent map. Put it the way that you did the maps on social media in general, and the way that you put it out there was really good.
Oh, thanks,
It was great to
Christina.
share. It was.
We're trying so hard over on Instagram to make this accessible to everybody. Big appreciate it. All right. CIP, we talked about that already, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so 300 West Corridor, what the heck is this? Connor is right. This area of our neighborhood does not have trees. I mean, like if you park in the Costco parking lot, you can see a few sometimes, but that's like it, and that's not really great for exacerbating our heat island effect, all that glorious asphalt. So I would love it if folks would get on this website, and I'll stick it in the chat. And what is in this area that is going to be rethought about and replanned? Well, some boxes that you all might have visited: Costco, Ashley Furniture, Sam's Club, Home Depot, and then way down here at the bottom we got the 21st South Track Station.
Might also add that these are some of the largest tax bases in the city.
Doug, I think that is such a reasonable point to bring to the conversation. And I actually have had a conversation with the Costco general manager and also Costco corporate in the past couple of days, saying like, could you maybe share that information about the taxes that you contribute back to the city budget? And they understand why we were asking that question. They don't have a process to share that data yet, but I think that would be a really valuable part of the conversation to think about in terms of replanning these spaces. I love my $4.99 rotisserie chicken, sure, but like actually what does Costco bring to the city? Sales tax, not trivial, important.
Large amount of sales tax.
Yeah. Yep. And
Love them or hate them.
yeah, love them or hate them. It's important to acknowledge the economics of this situation. I agree. So right now, this plan has, in addition to the ability to contribute just general comments about this area, and again, please contribute them. They're still in a brainstorming stage. So, you know, you guys know me, the comment I contributed was about like green space and trees. We need green space and trees. Where's the green space and trees in this plan? Even if it's just a requirement for more trees, there just aren't any. There is a compare and contrast right now of two situations that they're proposing. This first situation is called repurpose. And I don't want to summarize their statement because I don't want to get it wrong, but it's prioritizing repurposing these existing buildings, encouraging new development within existing sites like parking lots around buildings. This scenario would accommodate fewer new residential units than the other scenario, but as we know, we've sat through these meetings several times, like people are proposing new residential units for the 300 West corridor. We've sat through several proposals for large apartment buildings. So, and they also are proposing a new east-west connection at 1940 South. So I believe that's this connection here. I believe they're talking about a connection that would cross the tracks, but it'd be great to have them here and get clarity.
That connects an existing road that goes behind Home Depot if you've been in that area before.
You got it, yeah, but to what area does it connect, you know?
Where
To
on
the
the east
other-
side of it connects.
Exactly, yeah. And then scenario 2 is a little bit more different than what we have right now. It's this reconnect scenario. And it would allow for more intensive developments, a greater amount of housing. It would create new streets near Costco. This situation no longer doesn't have Costco existing anymore. So if you're confused about like, what do you mean near Costco? So here you can see, here's Costco, here's not Costco.
Looks like most of all of the box stores would be eliminated.
It does look like, and of course, my understanding is that, you know, the current use would have to be grandfathered in, right? It's not, nobody is proposing like eminent domain, we're gonna take over 300 West. But it's good to understand what the, you know, what the city envisions is going to happen to this corridor and what the zoning changes that they would be allowing to happen. So this would also allow this area to become a housing and transit reinvestment zone. I'm not completely familiar with the requirements for what needs to happen for a housing and reinvestment zone versus not, but we would get more supposedly, you know, property tax by that area would go back into that area. We already have a lot of, this is the second largest sales tax base for the city outside of downtown. So I'm not sure how property tax compares to the sales tax that's already being generated from that area. Those might be great questions to ask, like the city's economic development team.
I do know that when like the Albertsons in downtown closed, the city cut a significant, like almost $1 million out of the budget from sales tax that was generated from one grocery store alone. Even though it was a failing grocery store, it was still generating significant tax revenue.
Which is much, much larger than the property tax. Because city doesn't seem much.
World's largest Costco, man. That must be a lot of sales tax. Anyway, I am strongly encouraging folks to get on this plan. People haven't been talking to me about this plan. I know we might have planning fatigue because we have the Ballpark Station Area Plan. We have Ballpark Next. But guess what? We have this too. Get on there. Think about it. Finish the other survey by tomorrow so you can put this off a few days. But please check this out. Think about it. And we'll continue to host conversations about it. So I believe that's all I have. Yep. At this time. Oh, I have to stop sharing. Okay, did I miss any? Okay, thank you for your green space survey. And let's talk about, how early it is. That's so great. Let's talk about elections. Okay. Our bylaws which I'm very excited about revising. Do you have trauma that you need to talk about, bylaws revision, trauma, Christina? I heard an audible sigh over here. Yeah, so our bylaws stipulate that we need to discuss November elections. This is the first October that we've been meeting in person since October 2019, so it's been a hot minute. So we'll have elections next month. We've got 2 positions coming up, myself and Fraser. So because Fraser has replaced Dan Nelson, who's in a 2-year rotation. And then if anybody else, if any other board member who wishes to, you know, pass the torch on to others, wants to relinquish it, please feel free. At this moment, you know, be an appropriate time since we're discussing it. But that I, you know, open the floor for a discussion, nominations, etc.
I have a big question.
Yes,
and
please, ma'am.
Directive. So I'm Misty Grice. I own the public group of restaurants and coffee houses. My flagship headquarters is 975 South Temple. I am also on the board of the Midtown Business District, which is 6th South to 17th South, West Temple to 2nd East. Within the Midtown Business District, we have about 500 active business licenses. If you want to talk about sales tax, what do you think is going on State Street? Car dealerships. We are integrated with them. Our business district board is solid. We are disengaged from this group because all of the focus seems to be south of 13 South. So 50% of this community boundary is kind of disengaged. We are asking you guys to consider adding board members to your board. A significant number of them have some business representatives. Similar to the Downtown Community Council, they have 8 members. They have 6 residents, 2 businesses. The residents rotate off every 3 years. The business representatives rotate off every 2 years. This boundary is too big for you guys to carry with 5 people who only focus on 1300 South and South. I'm also on the board of Spy Hop. We're disengaged from this community council, and I was actually asked to speak on behalf of Water Witch, Barnum, Salt Lake Harbor, and some others in the Midtown Business District to highly suggest that you add board members to this board in November and get some people involved that are north of 13 South. Because I'm at 975 South West Temple, and I'm going to tell you that I have not used the app for crime, vandalism, or anything that I've had. Like, I used to use it probably monthly, twice a month. I haven't used it in a year. So we are having an entirely different experience as business owners and residents north of what you guys focus on. So we need you to do something about this, because we would like to be engaged, and you're missing out on a highly skilled group of people that would like to be involved and would like to help, because there's some good things going on north of 13th South. There are a lot of good things going on north of 13th South. And back to sales tax. All those car dealerships know exactly who the Midtown Business District is, and we are you, but you're not engaged with us.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just because this is gonna lead into something else that we're doing later on, that is a collaboration with Ballpark. So just where does the Midtown Business District go, and what is that, those actual coordinates?
6th South to 17th South, West Temple to 2nd East.
West Temple to 2nd East.
And we have about 11 members on our board. And none of them are engaged with Ballpark except me.
Which I'd love to have a conversation with you offline too about Central Ninth, because
And Central Ninth overlaps,
yeah,
but the guys from Water Witch and Barnum and the Parole, they know who Midtown is, even though we're just like 2 blocks that way.
yeah.
But I talked to Sean today, and he's like, speak for me.
Yeah,
We would like to be involved and we're not.
and Central Ninth is creating a business subcommittee
Yeah,
that we would love to get businesses involved in,
but
so.
think about the
Yeah.
boundary ballpark.
Yeah.
It's too big for 5 people.
Well,
And you have 0 representation north of 13 South,
Well,
except for me.
and done.
I'm north and first.
I mean, but in terms of activity.
No, but I mean, it's kind of foolish, because you've got 6 South to, where are you, 11?
I don't know.
I mean, it's half the boundary is not engaged in this community council.
So can I just ask one more question about boundaries? So Doug, you know, this is gonna feed into what we're, so. So all of those businesses, I've always thought they were straight up Central Night. And
Central
they-
Night was weird. It goes around me at public.
No, but I'm talking about Nome and all the people that meet.
Yeah, they would be
They're
Central
Central
Ninth.
Night, but they're also ballpark.
Yeah.
Technically, they're ballparks.
We could engage them a lot more.
They would
Yeah,
like
They
to,
would like to
and-
be engaged.
Yeah, I would love to engage.
they would like to
business,
be engaged.
Yeah,
You have really smart, talented, and like intelligent people that want to talk about things that are outside of crime.
yes.
Well, can I just ask one more question? Again, this is just for my own self-interest, because I'm gonna propose this other thing. So. I guess I'm confused, and maybe I've always been confused. I thought Central Ninth was I mean, I know there's an overlap, but I thought you actually split off from Ballpark. Or you did not.
We are fully split from Ballpark. I serve on both councils. I'm technically on the border of the councils where I live, so.
So point of clarification is that Central Ninth isn't exactly Ballpark. They're Central Ninth, but Ballpark overlaps or not?
Central Ninth is within Ballpark.
Is it still?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
We've never.
I mean, we could petition to have Ballpark become smaller
Well,
and just be 13th South South. And have Central Ninth expand.
I guess I don't
I
know,
mean, we could do something like that if it's.
and I wasn't here when Central Ninth was created. I didn't. So I'm not sure how within the city that works, that Ballpark and Central Ninth would be overlapping. Because I mean, Granary then would also be a part of Ballpark, so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
well, just in my experience up on the east side, you know. Community councils set their boundaries. It's not a difficult thing to change your boundaries if you have board commitment to change boundaries. So I mean, this can be fluid. It's not right, you don't have to have overlap if you don't want to, but we do have a lot of overlap. But we don't necessarily, and I'm talking about us, Liberty Wells, Central City, and East Central, in different parts. So you don't necessarily need to, in the overlap areas, you don't necessarily have to have the same agendas, or you can collaborate. But I mean, this is a great
But
conversation.
there are a lot of issues going on north of 1300 South. The one thing that Midtown has its eye on is the Sears block.
Yeah.
You guys never talk about it. It's
I'm
in your
sorry.
memo.
Yes.
IHC.
You and I
Well,
attended the same meeting in City Hall about.
Well, it was a year and a half ago, Amy.
No, ma'am, that was this January.
It was April of 22.
I can pull up the photos on my.
Well, anyway,
I
we brought
was-
Randy from IHC onto the Midtown District Board because we want to get closer to them, but like. I'm just saying, half of your constituents are not engaged. So. It would be fantastic if you would expand your board in November to include people that are north of 1300 South and put some bandwidth into this board, because you guys are carrying way too much. You're carrying way too much, and there's so much going on within the boundary that is never discussed at these meetings, which is why people are disengaged.
Or we could shrink the size of the.
Or shrink the-
community council and have it not go all the way north. And have it end where Central Ninth picks up, because that's becoming a neighborhood and a hub.
Yeah.
And, you know, Ballpark could be more focused south of there, if, you know, and same with Granary District. I mean, when these boundaries were set, it was way before any of that existed, and. You know, it may be that this organization's better focused on the area a little around the ballpark south. And not all the way out to 300 west and not all the way
6 south.
Yeah, I mean, all the way north to 700 south. I mean, that's it's the biggest swath of land. Maybe the Avenues is bigger, but there isn't much that's bigger.
And Central Ninth, we just voted on to small business onto our board. And the Central Ninth on our bylaws says anyone within a block of the boundaries of the council can serve on the board. And so I hope we can engage businesses more because I mean, the Central Ninth Community Council bylaws state that half the board has to be, or no more than 75% has to be residents or business owners. They set it up so that it would be a mix of both.
How many are on that board?
7.
7 on that board?
Yeah, for a much smaller geographic area.
And the way the RCO, like the Recognized Community Organization works, is that you can have overlaps or you cannot have overlaps. I mean, it's so fluid that.
And you can have more than one covering the exact same area because they're
Absolutely,
split.
but you have these people that I'm connected to within Midtown, and you know, it's funny that Central Ninth boundary is actually designated 975 South and West Temple, which is my address. So I'm Ballpark. But
yeah, I think you're literally, if you cross the street, you're.
If you look at it, it's my address, so they just drew a line around me, so I am Ballpark, but you have these people who are focused on the stadium. Even though they're not engaged in this community council, all along that 9 South corridor, we care about what happens to the stadium. It's all integrated. We would love to build something really dynamic there and interactive, right? Because it serves all of us, and you can bike and walk from Waterwich to the stadium. So Sean's like, I care about the stadium.
Yeah.
Is this a good
I'd
time
like to be involved in these balls.
to discuss our proposal?
You know,
Okay, so you start and I'll fill in what the mayor's and I talked about today.
Oh, okay, so we're looking at creating kind of a, I don't know, what we put, like a hub or a 900 South business event, but something that makes it cohesive along 900 South on the 18th and 19th.
No, it's on the 3rd Friday in
The 3rd,
November.
yeah, so it'd be right after
Is it the Friday or the Saturday?
It's on the
Saturday, yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
So that's 18th and 19th.
Yeah, 18th and 19th of November, and it would be an event that would bring all the businesses that are either on 900 South or just off of 900 South.
Half a block.
Yeah, half a block off.
how far east of
This is what I was calling it.
Yeah, just a half block off 900. So any
east west though, what are you?
like half block off.
900 south,
Oh, sorry.
half block to the south, half block to the north.
No, and
East west.
yeah, sorry, she's saying, so it'd be basically 9th and 9th to, Jordan Park.
Okay.
So, and any businesses that want to participate in this event, to basically just create something that wanted people to come down to 900 South. And so Christina and I were just met, I think it was the last night that we met, or 2 nights ago. Yeah, I know, it's we were just talking about this and how we can, build a community on 900 South. And so
Yeah, so I'll just fill in the background. So we have been working with our 9th and 9th businesses around the funding the future projects, which is essentially in our area, 900 South reconstruction and 1100 East. So we found out that it's really difficult in our position to support our businesses because we don't have a cohesive business district. And when I say that, that's defined by a whole bunch of different people in a lot of different ways. And that's part of it. Nobody thinks of business districts necessarily the same way. So as we all know, funding the future projects have a deadline, which is why all of our streets are torn up right now at the same time, because we didn't get 4 years to do funding our future road construction. We got, you know, a year and a half or 2 years because of COVID, earthquakes, all these other things. So the city approached us about creating a business improvement district for 9th and 9th. And then that developed into a 900 South corridor business district, a business improvement district. So we were working with the mayor's office and the city council. And again, they came to us. So, you know, we're kind of jumping on this opportunity. But 9th and 9th, we had a bit of a blow up in terms of folks worried about 9th and 9th construction being finished in time to support the businesses for the holidays. And it was a really great blow up because it led to a whole bunch of other different ideas about how we could just promote the businesses and the holiday season moving forward. So we conceived of this one particular event. The construction is supposed to be completed on the whole 900 South corridor or nearly completed. So starting as soon as possible, like after tonight, we will reach out to all the businesses within that, you know, half block north and south of the whole corridor who want to participate and do a just down and dirty, quick economic development scheme. We're not gonna, you know, no money is gonna be spent. Basically, we'll say, Water Witch, what's gonna be your special for this weekend?
It'll be kind of the businesses promoting it, with their contacts, their.
It's a great idea.
So we're just gonna start blasting it as soon as we get together, you know, even without the information, we're gonna say, hey, look forward to this event. Hey, this is what's happening. Our businesses are all open right now, but this project will be done. We're kind of tossing around the, because it's funding our future, like celebrating our future. Maybe that's what we'll call it.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, and I think it would be great if hopefully the weather is nice. Bike Collective is about to open their new space and it will be on the 9 line, so people get on your bikes and bike 900 South. I have a lot of contacts in the media, and so we'll be helping to push this out to our media partners.
So that will be the jumpstart for potentially what we're going to see long term as a 900 South business development opportunity for the whole, you know, and really for me, being the equity person that I am, living right behind East High School, working with all the kids from Glendale, we're basically shipped up to the 900 South or the 9th neighborhood. You know, we are the premier corridor for the 9th or the east-west connection. And, you know, the city is always blowing up the, you know, how there's not a good connection, and we are that now.
So we just started a new thing at Spy Hub, which is called the Youth Prevention. It's a coalition, and it is exactly about that, connecting West Side kids that are shipped to East Side. And it's all about behavioral health and mental health and integration.
Well, we've had an organization up by East High School for, you know, since 2015 called the West of East Rap Project.
Yeah.
And we kind of operate under the radar because so many of our kids are bound by HIPAA and FERPA.
Yeah,
But we
Jennifer
would-
Newell is on our coalition, so she mentioned that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, so it's great. So, you know, this is a huge opportunity for us to all around the 900 South corridor, which, I mean, we obviously already work very well with Ballpark in general. So the rest of your boundary and stuff, you know, your recognized community organizations is, you know, kind of, it's what, I mean, all the boards, we went through this too. We sat down and we looked at our bylaws. One thing I have to say that I've noticed, you know, we had Jason Stevenson before me, and Jason is top notch at putting, like building things and putting structures together. So when I took over, it was really easy to build upon what Jason put into place. And, you know, of course, I changed it drastically by bringing a whole bunch of people in. But kind of the standard of the research we did across all of the community councils, you know, small boards are the norm. So it'll be fun to see how you guys all decide to grow your, you know, bylaws and.
I have a question on elections. Jordan, who couldn't be here tonight, he's with our daughter, his regards, and I wrote this question, so I didn't memorize it. If board members, if you can paint a picture for how long Each of the members have been in office and when the last elections were held for each one. Given that Fraser was just elected by a vote a few months ago, can you please help explain why she's one of the seats that's open? Why aren't all seats open, given that it's been well beyond terms for all seats?
Yeah, do you want to help out with this?
I did
Did a deep dive.
a really deep dive on all of the records from the past of when people were started a term. And people were either voted in on an even year or an odd year. And for example, I was on an even year renewal.
And
So,
then, and that's so that everybody's not up at once.
well, it's like it says in the bylaws that the board members are intended to be staggered. So 3 elect 1 year and 2 elect another year for continuity and consistency. And so the board doesn't change completely all in 1 year.
Right.
Is the intention for that. So I went back through records from Amy and myself and Elke and Bill Davis of when people started. And some people left the board and were never replaced by a
what is your
specific
time?
person.
Personally?
I started in 2012.
Okay.
So I have been in as a board member for 11 years.
Wow.
And
What about you?
I haven't served 2 years yet. It was I want to say it was June of 22, maybe May of 22. I'd have to go back and look, but
I'm newer to the neighborhood, so
yeah.
I have no idea how long folks.
And I was serving on Central Ninth's board at the time, and they asked me to also take a seat on Ballpark because at the time the Central Ninth wasn't sure we were going to survive or not. We had just lost our chair, and we were doing a lot of joint meetings because of the pandemic with Ballpark at the time, and so it made sense for me to also come and serve.
When were the last public elections? Was it when I was elected? And then when was the last? I know you said like you didn't have elections during the pandemic. I don't know if anybody did.
Well, I was elected.
So you were
Okay.
elected.
Yes.
Was it a
On
public
virtual.
election?
And Dan
Yes.
Thomas and Sarah Real were elected during the pandemic after Carol Bodley resigned to move out.
And Sarah was a special member because you wanted to expand at that point instead of the minutes?
Terrell asked if he could be replaced by 2 people because he wanted to make sure that somebody would be helpful.
Plus, we had 2 inactive board members at the same time that were still in a term. So we added another person. During the pandemic time period, we made an agreement that since we couldn't have in-person elections, that we were all just going to agree to extend our terms until the point where we could have an in-person real election again, you know.
Our bylaws say that we need to, one of the ways our bylaws are different than several other community councils I discovered with Christina when we were comparing across several community councils, is that they state that elections have to be by secret ballot. And that created some challenges for virtual meetings because we meet courtesy, thankfully, of the city library. And when I talked with Patrick Cutchings about would there be a way that we could see who signed on to the meeting, not how they voted, but just who was on the meeting, so we could verify that people who were either residents, property owners, business owners. I'm leaving somebody out. What category am I leaving out? People who qualify for membership according to the bylaws. I'm sorry, I'm dropping one of those categories. Patrick told me no, that wasn't consistent with the public library values, that they would consider that sort of like asking to see a record of, you know, who checked out this book. And I understand that that is not okay. I would not ask for that, but that did create a quandary for trying to follow the letter of the bylaws, which says by secret ballot, and meeting virtually which meant that we didn't have a way to poll people effectively. Google Forms, you have to sign in by email. And so when we voted Dan and Sarah, it was anonymous voting, but probably not, it wasn't ideal, I think.
When I voted on it, was in a public meeting.
Yes, we were meeting in public.
So
Yeah.
back to Jamie's question, if Fraser was just voted on, why is she up for?
Cause I'm filling the last year.
Because she took over the remainder term of Dan Thomas. She was specifically elected to fill
the
this
city
seat.
council where Sarah Young took over for him.
Exactly, yeah, so that would keep that on that same schedule as Dan Thomas, because that's where that.
And that's the same for everyone.
Like, it wasn't a secret ballot when I was selected, it was.
Yes, it was.
Well, people raised their hands.
No, they
Oh,
filled out
Oh, that's right.
We have people nominated for raising hands, but.
Yeah, that's right, I apologize.
No, we're trying to make a big effort to like get back onto guidelines and also to revise the guidelines so they work. Right now, there's stuff in there that's I don't agree with, that I think that we need to change. Right now, it says that all the members need to be over the age of 18. I don't think that makes any sense. I think we should be able to have members who are 18 because 18 is the voting age.
You guys have weird bylaws. I mean, just to be
Sorry.
very clear, your bylaws, the ballpark bylaws are very difficult to work with. And that's what's been really interesting, because I mean, we have a lawyer on our board and he's open meeting law specialist, so he's very, very helpful.
How many people are on your board?
Well, okay, so I mean, I can tell you what my experience is. I've been on the ELCO board for over 10 years. And there's literally been 3 or 4 people involved in ELCO.
But how many are on it now?
When I started, there was 5 with only 3 or 4 really participating. And since I started in October, we have got up to 13.
13 elected.
13 elected by the board that are gonna have to go through elections by the membership next month. Right, but here's the key, is that we had positions that were just vacant, that we haven't been able to get anybody interested in for 10 years. And, I don't know what the difference was and why all of a sudden people were so excited to do it when I took up, but we didn't have to change our bylaws in order to bring people on. Where you guys, and I think Amy and I have talked about this a lot, and this actually, I'm not really getting involved in ballpark business. I'm just communicating what we've learned from this experience.
You've been a great resource for us.
Yeah, so we've learned a lot. And 2 things about what you guys are doing here is really good. It sounds like Amy's interested in having like a bylaw meeting where everybody comes in and says, what they'd like to see. But also that strategic plan that you put together, I think, Fraser, was super helpful for like even in ELCO. Because what you're experiencing here, everybody in the city goes through. Like, you guys are just kind
If
of
you're
this
lucky,
meeting.
actually.
Yeah, this is a huge cool thing that you guys get to do now. We are hopefully going to incorporate, with your permission, some of your strategic things that you brought to the table. The most difficult thing for me when I brought in all these people, onboarding folks is so incredibly difficult. And oftentimes people throw in the bot or they don't necessarily get along because it's really unclear what community councils do.
Well, let me ask a really basic question. Is there anything that would stop right now from me suggesting a resolution to add new members to the board right now? Do we need a change in our bylaw? We can change the bylaws with a resolution saying we would like to have a more robust board. I think that what Missy's suggesting is that with the size of the jurisdiction we cover, the number of issues facing our community, the increasing interest in people in the community in participating, and the lack of seats, there's 2 seats up. And we have lots of people who would like to be engaged. And it's taking us an awfully long time to discuss, how things can change. Where I believe in my reading of the bylaws, we could just have a resolution that says we want to add 3 members that represent the community, and 2 of them are business members and 1 is a member at large. I mean, there's nothing stopping us. The bylaws do not prohibit us from passing resolutions that would make this council more effective, more diverse in age and race and ethnicity, more diverse in terms of backgrounds with business. There's nothing that prohibits us.
And geographic.
You don't do that at your annual meeting,
Because we don't have, I mean, I'm just saying,
which is right.
I've been attending, this meeting is to discuss elections, among the other things that we're discussing. If we're gonna have effective elections in November, we have a member of our community who's saying, I wanna help, and there are other business members who wanna help. We have examples of other community councils across the city. We have a friend who's, you know, encouraging us and has been talking with us about changing our bylaws. There is nothing in the bylaws that prohibits us from doing a resolution right now in advance of our meetings in November to add additional spots.
I disagree with you.
That would take a majority vote of the existing board
Well,
to amend
the
it.
existing board is here.
So,
I mean, Christina, this is our council. We have the board members here. We are hearing, I think, we have each expressed as board members frustration with the ability to get all the work done that we need to do. We've listed, as Missy said, there's a lot on the shoulders of 5 people in a very crucial crux of our neighborhood. There is nothing wrong with adding more people who love this neighborhood and who want it to succeed. If the resolution goes down and the board is here and Kevin's online and we get a majority of the board says, yes, let's add new people. If it doesn't, we can look at other options. But I feel as though we get to this point in this group of inaction. And I've expressed my frustration about that for a long time. It's why I wanted to join the board. But it's also why a group of us created that meeting at Public last March to say, let's get it together, guys. Let's start involving more people.
Yeah.
Let's start involving more people in the community. So we have very poor attendance at these meetings.
Are you kidding me?
I'm still waiting for a website that was.
Fraser, what do you think would be good attendance? at-
Well, there's 11 of us in this room.
And 28 people
And
signed up.
28 people. Well, I think we've had upwards of 70 and 80. I think people don't
We've
hear
had
about things.
over 100 when there's been an incident of, you know, violence in the community, or when we've got
Well,
something really
I'm sorry,
exciting
I
on Ballpark
think-
next.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to disagree with you. What I'm saying is, there's an energy in this community that is not being tapped by this community council for purposes of the community. When there's a crisis in the community, there's a shooting, when something like that happens, of course, people want to get information.
I guess
But this is a different issue.
you're saying that there's an action, but adding more members seems like that would create more problems, because then we have a larger group to try and get a consensus.
I think that adding additional perspective and energy to this community
Which I love.
is not a bad thing for it to do, and it doesn't seem to me that we need to wait. And if there's an election in November, then let's see who comes forward. We know that people are interested in serving. I've heard from a number of people who are saying, I'd love to serve. There's only 2 spots and they don't necessarily want me to be gone, and I don't know maybe if they want you to be gone. But there, you know, what would stop us from adding 2 business people and another resident?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Fraser, I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean, I think I had something really important to add to what you were saying. I think what stops you, and just from looking at the bylaws, the same thing that stops us. But I have a suggestion that might be helpful, you know, just for a point of clarification. So if y'all get together, you know, a group of you, and decide what you would like your bylaws, you know, that all the different folks that are maybe oppositional or like, you know, all over your area, if you hit consensus on the bylaws that you like, right? And then you suggest what representatives, you know, in that consensus in the bylaws. And then your current board votes to present that at your annual meeting. and you already have folks who are interested in slipping into those positions, that's probably how it works best. So, I mean, it's the same thing you're saying, but just from looking over your bylaws and looking at our bylaws, we really can't do that until our annual meeting when we change our bylaws. We can't add folks on, which seems like it's very similar to what you guys did. Like, we can set up temporary people, but not for positions that we don't, because it's so real. So there's so much potential for you guys' bylaws.
Should we, is there a way to scroll down on these?
Yeah, I can scroll down.
Thank you.
Kevin has problems, I think.
I mean, I'm suggesting as a member of the board asks that there be a resolution to add additional members to represent. We have a member of the business community who's come and asked us to do that. I kind of feel like,
I think you're up at the top.
you know, it's something to consider, and this is, we've been in discussions like this for quite a while. That's my position as a board member.
Does Kevin have a comment up there?
Yes, Kevin says, I would object and vote against that. I don't think that deliberation and community organization equates to inaction.
I'm just saying there's a lot of meetings that members of these committees have to go to. There's a lot of people hold up, and if we have more hands, it might be helpful. And if we have deeper ties to the business community in our neighborhood, it would be helpful.
Well, I mean, isn't there, don't you, I mean, I understood you guys to be interested in this. I mean, I feel like I'm being but from what I understand, I thought you all were interested in increasing your bylaws to incorporate more people.
Definitely interested in revising the bylaws first and taking a piecemeal. Erica, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you to everyone in this room right now for having this conversation. I just want to speak for myself and say that, I've been a Ballpark resident for the past 2 years, and I love our neighborhood. And I love our neighborhood because of the people in it. And I'm really eager to participate more formally in what's going on in the Ballpark Community Council. I feel like informally I've been able to lend some of my talents, but I would love the opportunity more formally. But there isn't a current structure that allows for me to do that beyond an official elected position. I know we made some requests for subcommittees a few months ago, and there's been no movement on the subcommittees, at least that I'm aware of. And so I think, community council board members, speaking for myself, I hope that you can hear me when I say, I want to help, I want to serve, I want an opportunity to do so because I love our neighborhood and I love our neighbors, and I know what we can accomplish together. And so I just really want to bring that spirit of collaboration and possibility, and also formally lend my skills and background in governance, in helping groups come to a decision, in helping groups think about how do they make decisions. And so I would really just encourage the board to think about expanding more seats and or creating avenues where more neighbors like myself can hold formal roles and get involved.
I think that's great, and I really hope that you are available to attend our first, bust apart the bylaws meeting. Because I think part of our inaction has been this document that I think it's in our great interest to revise and make into, just whispered, it's awful. It's not my favorite. I think it's in our great interest to revise it and turn it into a robust governing document that helps us. Oh, I'm sorry.
Erica, did you have something else to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to know, when will that meeting take place? Will there be multiple meetings? Because I think that, we have 18 people on here who have stayed on, who care about our neighborhood and probably have some level of investment in improving our governance infrastructure so we can be more effective. And so would love if we could just get some meeting dates on the calendar, maybe offer two options. And if somebody can't attend that particular meeting, a comment or a place that they can leave what they hope to see in this reiteration of the bylaws. But I think more importantly, the bylaws are just a mechanism through which we serve our community. And so really tapping into people want to serve and we're asking for an opportunity. I'm asking for an opportunity to do so.
I mean, I think that's great, and I approached you a long time ago, asking if you were interested, so you obviously know, I think that I appreciate the role that you've had in the community early on.
Do you have dates?
I do have a date, I don't have dates plural. I think folks on the board currently know, who've been filling out our doodle polls, that getting coordination between board members has been quite a challenge with folks' schedules. So Monday, August 23rd is the date I have now. What did I say?
August.
Why do I swap those all the time? Monday, October 23rd.
So is this an
7
open
p.m.
meeting or is this for your board?
I think we're going to open it up to folks who want to.
So your bylaws
Bust
say that
the
the
bylaws.
general public can be involved in this process?
There is nothing that
Okay.
says just about the brainstorming way to try to change the
Is there
bylaws.
something in there that says you cannot have a resolution to just expand the number of board members? Does it say
Not
specifically
specifically,
you cannot? Then
It has 5 board members prescribed in the bylaws, how it exists.
The central ninth bylaws specifically state that they can be expanded or contracted at the board's
Okay.
discretion.
Okay.
Ours do not
But
state that.
a resolution can change bylaws.
Ours do not either, and we just asked them.
But the point is, Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, but the board can pass a resolution to make a change to the bylaws on the fly because it becomes part of the organization. Bylaws do not run the organization. The board runs the organization and can change bylaws. I have been part of many boards, and boards can make resolutions and add to bylaws as a course of its activity, and if bylaws.
So would you want us to change the bylaws tonight to make a resolution and take elections tonight to expand the board?
Take elections in November, at the meeting, this meeting is supposed to be about elections. I think it's appropriate. The board can shoot it down, and Kevin is opposed to it. To pass a resolution tonight that says that in November, at the elections, we will add additional board members.
So
The bylaws can be changed holistically through the bylaws committee, but that does not preclude the board taking action at any point to make a change that reflects what the board thinks is the need. That happens, that happens. It happens, I mean, during COVID, boards were passing resolutions to their bylaws to allow them to have meetings that were electronic, because a lot of boards didn't foresee something like that. So you can make a change to your bylaws as the board. That is absolutely the right of the board.
Jeff,
And you're part of
can I
it.
just ask?
And I'm part of the
question?
board, so the board member can make a resolution to make a change in advance of the meeting in November, not to say that we would elect people tonight, but that we would want to elect people at our annual meeting to expand the board.
That's right, that's exactly the process.
Yeah.
I think that's a logical process.
Right,
That's
to say that we want to pass a resolution tonight as a board, if the board chooses to pass the resolution. To add members that will be elected at our annual meeting in November, giving people time to run. And then when we revise the bylaws, we can revise the bylaws to say up to 20 members, but the Avenues has 30 members on their board. I think that's insane, that's a lot of people. But we can add the committees at that point, we can make the bylaws normal, flexible,
Well, and
non-profit
one thing I can
bylaws.
say about subcommittees being on Central Ninth. We have had an extremely hard time forming subcommittees. I have one subcommittee that is flourishing and one that we're struggling.
And you don't prescribe the subcommittee, you can say, and it can have committees. As determined by the needs of the times, I mean, bylaws should be flexible enough and I've read our bylaws many times, and they're ridiculous, I don't know who wrote them, they're bad.
They're old.
But that doesn't mean that they can't be changed, the board has.
We have been, even before, we sat last summer for hours trying to change them, and I mean, we sat at Jeff's house and got nowhere for hours doing it. So
But there's a difference
There's a
between
width.
changing the bylaws as a whole document, as a legal document. And passing a resolution in advance of an annual meeting to add additional members. That I'm not suggesting that those things be conflated. I'm suggesting that I would be interested in putting forward a resolution at this meeting. Did you?
I
say
think
that?
that's more clear. I mean, that's an important clarification that it would, you know, like it's a resolution for in the future. I wasn't getting.
Yeah,
that.
that's so nice.
Yeah, it's a resolution in advance of elections in
Can
November.
I just ask you a question, Jeff, though, because I mean, I read your bylaws just briefly, and this is the thing that we ran into, and I'm not saying that you're all gonna run into it. But so as a recognized community organization, we don't really have a lot of power to change our bylaws. We cannot do so without the will of our membership. So I mean, I agree with what Fraser's saying, is that you can pass a proposal that if the membership all agrees to it at your annual meeting, then it will go through. So you can have it all, you know, whipped up and ready to go if the whole membership agrees that. Now, I'm not sure, because your bylaws are hard for me to read, but at Elko, that's what we ran into, is that our board cannot change our bylaws without the expressed consent of the membership. Now,
Do we have a membership?
but that's the key. You guys have a huge membership. We have no membership, so it's really easy to speak.
Depends on membership.
All of the people who are stakeholders
Constituents
in
in
Ballpark.
our district.
So everyone, like everybody should show up at the meeting. So what I'm bringing to the table is nobody cares about anything in Elko because they, you know, until it happens, it's not a problem. Everything
That's
really
true. I'm part of Elko. You just defined me as a member of Elko.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is at our community council meetings, not hardly anybody ever cares about anything at the community council meetings. So like if we want to pass something, it's really pretty easy to get the membership on board because it's so few people.
Well, I'm talking about us.
Right, but at your meeting, right? Your general meeting, when you get ready to change or add at the will of the people, you could get, you know, dozens of people to show up at the meeting that maybe don't ever come to these meetings and they could vote.
At our annual meeting in November?
Yeah, so all of those people would have a vote. And they might say yay or nay to something that you worked super hard on putting together. And that is what I'm just trying to express to you. If you put something together super well, that all of your active members decide on, and then you take it to that annual meeting and the will of the people also agrees with you, then you're golden. But if they shoot down everything that you've signed up for.
Who is up for re-election? Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, you know, like back on what Erica was saying, because when I first started coming to this meeting, she goes, oh, would you like to, you know, get on the subcommittee? And I'm like, yeah, sure, you know, I would do that. So I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but maybe that's something that you add to your bylaws, that you can form subcommittees. Doesn't have to be any specific one, but if, you know, a subcommittee on a specific topic, just in general, that you have the opportunity to do that if you need further assistance.
And I'm very much in favor of subcommittees, like I think.
But I'm just saying, add to the bylaws.
We have, okay, let me, if I can interject here for a minute, I've got a couple comments. We can, our bylaws already state, yes, we can have a subcommittee, not a problem. And I think as far as having a resolution about more board members, I think that there's nothing in the bylaws that specifically says we can't do that. The board has agreed as a majority in the past that they were going to add more than just the standard 5 for one reason or another, even if it was just temporary, added that. So I think we can make make a resolution if the board was in agreement, the majority of the board was in agreement that we can amend that to add more board members that can be voted in the next month's main meeting. a couple other comments I have quickly. I want everyone to know that we have discussed this, that we didn't feel like we had a good representation of areas, districts further north. And that's one of the reasons that we thought that it made good sense to add Doug, because he's a representative of the area north of us. In years past, we've had residents and business owners that were in the Central 9th area on our board. Elkie Phillips was the chair. She lives in Washington Street. And we had Jesse that owns the architecture firm on 9th South was on our board. We've had better representation from the area, but the area has never been purposely ignored or not represented for any reason. It just has happened that the people that were on there are not on the board anymore. We felt like it was very helpful to have Doug, not only his experience in running a community council, but also to have his representation for that area on our own council board. And I also want to point out that I think that I have felt like this council has always been interested and willing to engage with everybody we could possible. At least that's always what I felt like was the goal of the council. I think we need to change the bylaws, definitely have to be revised, but I think that that can't be done obviously before the next meeting. But I think we can pledge to revise the bylaws that meet our needs much better based on review and collective input from everybody, including examples of other community councils bylaws that have been recently revised, and take the key points from those and incorporate them into our new revision. I also think that we can do a better job of engaging business overall throughout our entire district area. I'm going to say, as a board, we've been so focused on some of this development and zoning and planning and ballpark different projects and stuff that we haven't done as much business outreach or inclusion as we have in some years past. And I think that that can certainly be a goal moving forward of having better business engagement because they're critical parts of our community that we want to always have a voice on the council and feel like they will be included. So in closing on my thoughts, I think we can resolve, if the board is in majority agreement, that we're going to add more board members without revising the bylaws, and revise the bylaws at a later date. Also, subcommittees are also an acceptable part of the current bylaws. So we can have a business subcommittee, we can have a communication subcommittee, we can have a zoning and planning subcommittee, or whatever the board deems appropriate and useful. And one final thought is that in different boards I've been on, I feel like sometimes that if you get too many people on there, you don't have a cohesive group, and you end up still with the same core people doing most of the work. So I think we can carefully review what feels like an appropriate expansion, and with reasons to go with it.
Thanks, Jeff.
And
That's a nice summary.
one thing I'd like to add is Amy, Jeff, Kevin, they've been on the board for quite a while now, and they have kept this board going. They've kept it, keeping our neighborhood with a voice. And if it wasn't for them, our neighborhood wouldn't have had a voice as cohesive as it's had.
I completely agree, and I want to acknowledge that, and I don't want to represent that people have been ignored, they just haven't been engaged, and that goes back to, you don't have the bandwidth because there have been 4 or 5 of you dealing with some really pressing issues that center right around where you reside.
Yeah, and I think one part of that is, we maybe need to more clearly hear what your expectations of that engagement really looks like, because I
Well,
don't know.
I think it's
You know,
subcommittees.
I think we need to talk about that. What would you think was appropriate ways of engagement that we could do better on?
I mean, you could have at
You know.
least 6 subcommittees. I mean, you could have communication, you could have marketing, you could have community engagement with respect to the, maybe trash pickup belongs there, but so does a celebration that Hong Win is hosting for April 20th at Dragonfly. Right, and then business and development and crime and vandalism. I mean, you could have 7 subcommittees, which means you need 7 board members, and someone's got to lead each of these subcommittees.
Well, it's gotta have a purpose, and it's gotta be sustainable and manageable. For the board, to handle and have rules and processes connected to it that we can manage and maintain.
I really like the Sugar House Community Council's language and expectations about subcommittees. I think they're really helpful.
Mhm.
But I also want to keep in mind that the Sugar House Community Council is essentially the governing body for the entirety of Salt Lake City District 7, which has over 25,000 residents. And they're at a different economic level than our neighborhood. So I think their model is aspirational, and we can think about how to adapt some of the language from their bylaws and practices that could work for us.
Yeah. Well, I think that what's important is that there's a lot of energy in this community, and there are a lot of people who want to be involved, and I think it's great. And I appreciate the historic energies that have been brought to the table, and your long service, Jeff, has been extraordinary. I mean, to sit on any board for 11 years, it's really.
Well, it's been my pleasure because I love the neighborhood, and I actually went on the board at the point when there was nobody on the board except for Elke. She was about ready to throw in the towel because she didn't have enough people to help her, and and we have typically not had enough board members or kept everybody active and engaged, so.
Yeah. 'Cause it seems
Anyway,
like
it's been a pleasure working with the community and helping on the board. It's been my pleasure
Well, and I felt
to
very
do it for a
welcome.
lot of years, so I'm happy to continue as well for the time being, but I think that I'm gonna make a proposal that I think it's appropriate that if we're having a board meeting on the in October later this month.
We have a board meeting,
20
then the second date, the 23rd, will be just the bylaws meeting.
So when is the board?
Okay, but I think the 20, I'm gonna propose that we make a final decision on the how many and what to do on the additional board members at our board meeting on the 22nd, like the 4 or 23rd.
Bylaws
So
23rd, and the
So-
regular board meeting itself is the 19th. Thank you. Yep.
Cancel family engagement because of that meeting, so I just. Want people to know that the time commitment for serving on this,
Trivial,
yeah,
not trivial.
yeah, so.
And this is just the Ballpark Community Council meeting. That's apart from.
Every day this week, I've had something community council related that I've done this morning. I took my lunch break. I work out in West Jordan and I came downtown to meet with the mayor and our staff.
Yes.
So it is,
Sentiment quite a lot, and would it not then make sense to spread? So you're not burning out. I genuinely care about, I've experienced that, it's awful, and so would it
I'm in
not
favor
make sense to
of expanding the board.
get some folks on board? Yeah, onboarding is grueling, I completely understand that aspect.
But it also is hard to get people involved, because just because somebody served on the board doesn't mean they're involved.
I agree with you, but we've got a lot going on in our neighborhood, and I've seen a lot of people like Erica, and we're really excited about helping with the bandwidth issue that you all seem to be facing.
So let's just can I make sure we've got these dates correct then? The ballpark council board meeting is the 19th.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next, and then the meeting to discuss the bylaws is the 23rd.
And everybody on the Ballpark Community Council indicated that those were the only two dates that we all had free within that 30-day period.
But the bylaws committee is open to, the bylaws meeting is open to more than just the board.
I think it'd be great to have a diverse set of
Great,
eyes on the
have Erica
bylaws.
to that as a bylaws specialist.
And anybody else that would like to.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah,
because
I'll put it in the newsletter.
Kevin, are there specific questions that you're not getting answered that you'd like to hear? And you're a co-host, so you can unmute yourself to ask questions. Maybe I should, if you can't hear everything that's said, maybe I should put that in the chat.
Can I just say something? So I didn't want to be the chair of ELCO. We don't have any engagement at the community council level, and we really struggle to get people on. So that you guys, have such a wonderful opportunity as you're expanding this, like I'm really like excited for you all to figure out how to move forward with this. But we're all jealous. Everybody in the city is all jealous about all the people that you guys can get to an online meeting and things like this and engage. So
Thank you, Christina.
Something to keep in mind, is that when you're compared to other places in the city where we can't get people to our meetings and things like that. As I said, as I was trying to bring up before, when you start getting more and more and more people that come to your meetings, having really good, strong bylaws will help you organize all those dispersed voices all over.
Well, and I apologize for implying that we wouldn't. I think I was picking up on the engaged piece, like, are we engaging people at the level that they want to be engaged? So I apologize for implying that we weren't having good attendance. I meant it more. I misspoke. I apologize.
No offense. I'm really excited. I'm just so thrilled for you all because it was, even in a place where we can't get people to join positions very easily, the bylaws struggle was such a struggle. So the fact that you're all willing to put in this elbow work, and really come to some terms is, I've been with the city council or community council for a long time. It's really exciting. So I just want to congratulate you all.
I would also like to expand the board. I would like to do it in a way that's thoughtful. I think one of the things I admire about ELCO is that, and I believe Fraser, you've put this in writing as well, is that the way that you have separate geographic representation of your individual neighborhoods. And some of those positions have stayed vacant at times, correct?
For years, for a decade. So
but the position, those have
always
existed.
open. It's always open.
Okay, so I think that might be thinking about some of the natural geographic boundaries in the neighborhood and thinking about the representation that we'd like to get from those different boundaries, I think would make lots of sense.
And I think we scoop that from Sugar House because that's something they do incredibly well.
Sugar House. Those Willy Wonka types are, that's what I think. But, for example, I think it would make sense to get, representation from west of the train tracks, right? Because that's a major dividing line in our neighborhood in terms of even just the pedestrian bike experience. Like it really, I find it divides the neighborhood. It would make sense to try to get representation from a resident who lives on 300 West. It would make sense, and this is the biggest ask, I think, come on, universe. Makes sense to get more renter representation on the board because we are a neighborhood that is 85% renter occupied. And the majority, all of us right now, I think, on the board live in owner occupied homes. And I think if we're really going to serve the interests of the residents who live in the neighborhood, we should try to do the hard work of trying to figure out how to. I'm not an expert when it comes to engagement of
You
the
don't wanna
renter,
come and sit and talk about crime all the time.
the renter population.
No one.
I think it's just renters don't have that direct investment.
Yeah.
I'm a renter myself, and me coming to this as a direct investment, if I'm a property owner. That if this community becomes better, I have a direct like financial benefit of this community becoming better. As a renter, if this community does get better, I can just move.
Why are you here? What is that even? Yeah, why?
It's like it's 900 South, 300 West corridor. Being able to bike to a grocery store is what got me to move to North Central. And what got me involved was Doug and the subcommittee aspect of the West Temple ramp. I'm an engineer, and I think it's absurd that an engineer designed a West Temple ramp. Crazy, so. And Doug's been doing great, and I've been dropping the ball in his subcommittees, but as a renter, I would say that's the difficult part, and it's just, I would more so try getting involved with the landlords of those renters and just try getting consistent mailbox information to them, which is difficult.
Yeah, that's a pricey one.
It is.
Yeah, we priced that out before and that would have wiped out our entire tiny.
Website would be great. I don't know if the website is great with meeting minutes. I think I know that's how I got engaged with Central Mountain's website. Their meeting minutes. So it's difficult. It's a lot of work.
Do you think that there are ways that we could pitch back to renters this as like a professional development experience? And I don't mean to I don't mean to sell this as more than it is, but just as you know, one of our previous board members, Terrell Bodley, was an architect, and one of the things that he did was talk frequently to the folks in his firms about opportunities and where he thought development was going in the neighborhood, because he had a stronger ear to the ground because of hearing city priorities and things like that. I don't know if people who are renting and younger in their careers in terms of planning, architecture, etc., if that would be interesting to them or not. And frankly, I've tried to sell this to my own students. I'm a professor at the U in terms of, hey, you want to talk about health disparities? This is a health disparity professional opportunity. None of my students, some of whom live in the neighborhood, are here tonight. They're studying. But I'm honestly very interested in figuring this out, because I know what it's like to be like a politically educated renter, and it was to be turbo interested in the national sphere, and I didn't have the foggiest idea who was my city council representative or like what the school board was or anything back when I was a renter in Richmond, Virginia for 8 years. But I knew like tons of junk about national policy.
So you are not making a resolution tonight, you're having your board meeting, you're doing it then you're having another meeting on the 23rd.
Oh, we need to get the word out quickly. We're going to increase the number of board members.
Election place for that meeting.
And when is your board meeting?
So
Board meeting is 20. Oh, she just said the 2 days.
18.
19th, Thursday.
Jeff, is that what you suggest, that if the board pass the resolution at the board meeting about?
I think I was suggesting that we take a final review of that and decide what the structure looks like and you do it on the, at our board meeting.
And then we'll have to get, if resolution passes and we add additional seats, however many, we'll have to get the word out quickly that people will be able to nominate themselves for the board and have the election.
Yeah, and I would suspect that won't be a problem, because I think that everybody interested is already online tonight or in here in the room right now.
That's not true. But is that limiting?
It doesn't need to be limited, I'm just saying that there's a kind of quite a
And Fraser,
lot of
you
people
wanna
that are all
come with me
here
this
that
time
are.
to hand out flyers? I know you volunteered last time and I'm taking you up on that
I'd
this
be
time.
happy to, I'd be happy
Okay,
to.
cause when Central Ninth, every board meeting, for 2 hours, I go out and I put flyers around the neighborhood. I'd be happy to do that for this.
That'd be great, let's do it.
I love your.
We're gonna get,
And it can be announced online on the
yeah, and we'll have a newsletter. You guys
That's true.
approve the
right,
newsletter,
I mean, that's good,
get that
an
out.
email. that
Our
can all
email
be
list
sent
does
out,
go
it's
out
gonna
to
be-
for 650 people, that's not nothing.
Yeah, and the
So-
newsletter, we can really focus on it in the newsletter too.
Yeah. How many people does your newsletter go out to?
Our email list are people who have not requested to be removed from the email list goes out to, I wanna say it's 654 right now.
But I mean, I guess my question, word of mouth though, you can get information to pretty much everybody that y'all know will want to participate, right? So that, you know, that hits the majority of people who regularly comes to meetings, so. I mean,
when will
you be able to tell people that? So after the 18th.
So our board meeting is on Thursday, the 19th.
And then is this, what if you decided, what if people can't show up because they don't know until the 18th? Is it the 2nd of November?
Our board meeting, just the board, just
The election.
The election is.
Oh, it's the second.
So what if they can't be there?
Yeah, but that
I
can
can't
be,
control that. It's just written in the bylaws about like the people who are, oh wait, it is in the bylaws. People can nominate somebody else by proxy. Right,
we can.
by proxy. Well,
I nominate her.
Okay.
Erica,
you're gonna run, right?
She's giving a thumbs up, it's here.
Okay,
But I think that can be announced after the board meeting on the 19th,
yeah,
right? Then you got till the 2nd, for anybody else to be prepared or notified. I think that's reasonable.
Great. My last question, and this will be relevant for publicizing elections as well. And this is something I've struggled with is, again, trying to figure out the spirit or whatever of the bylaws. Other community councils don't do this by secret ballot, they publicly vote. Trying to figure out voting online versus in person at so if it's a hybrid meeting, are we saying both are fine? Are we saying you can just sign on for the election? Are we saying, and I want to ask folks' opinion about this because I don't want this conversation to just be in my head. I've struggled with this for a while and talked to other city library Patrick about like and I've actually talked to other community council chairs.
We had that issue.
I talked to Jason Stevenson when he was chair about like, how are you doing elections? You know, and a lot of people are like, well, we're just not right now, like, we're just trying to get through.
Well, we had to change our bylaws to be allowed to do
Do
it
electronic,
so it was like.
so.
I think that's a question that we need to discuss.
That's in the board meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
is
so
how,
then we can
how we
publicize it at
handle
the same time.
a virtual and an in-person
Right.
election, so.
I mean, this
that's
is-
a real problem.
Thank you for acknowledging that. It is, I'm not,
It's a
not
big
trying to make
Yeah.
a problem where one doesn't exist. I'm just like trying to follow things. This is our second hybrid meeting after all, so I guess it's not too crazy to be like trying to invent problems ahead of time.
well, maybe we just do it completely online, if it's easier to just do it all online rather than hybrid. And have an online meeting for the election and figure out some way to do the voting only online.
But if we do that, yeah, I mean, and we could talk about this, but like I said, if we do that, it's completely anonymous, so like, you know. Folks could sign in from Timbuktu and
Somebody could sign in 3 times,
Yeah,
vote 3 times,
yeah,
so it presents its own challenges.
I'm not trying to be a
Politics, yeah, politics.
I don't know, they just laid off
800
folks.
people.
But yeah,
I have a politics. Somebody had a comment about that actually.
I'm not sure if I understand your point, Kevin. So alternative measures are not to be taken for granted. Could somebody rephrase that for me? Or Kevin, could you rephrase that for me?
What is Erica saying? The position is,
Rename your Zoom as voter and then just vote
yeah,
without reading.
You guys could always use like, I mean, we have a Zoom account. I mean, the only issue you have mostly is because it's public library, right? So you could use a private Zoom account maybe?
Maybe so,
So
and
that's-
then we'd have a record if you
Yeah.
signed on.
Yeah,
Cause
because we have a,
do you have a record of who signs on at the meeting?
yeah, you know, we do it by registration too. So, I mean, again, Jason Stevenson, he was a whiz at this. So I'm only passing on all the things. So what he did was he utilized our account. We have a lot of Zoom bombers, you know,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
register, pre-register. So then we had a list of everybody who pre-registered. And then somebody went through and made sure that they were all stakeholders and legitimate part of our membership. And that's how I became chair, right? Because no, you know, that's just, it was very weird and difficult. It took us a while, but that was key, Jason.
Erica, I think
That might
Erica
be the
has
way
a
to go.
suggestion. Erica, do you have a suggestion on this? Or are you just writing in something? Oh.
I'm gonna, sorry.
Yeah, I have some ideas. I'm happy to take them offline. I think there's a way you can do it on Zoom. There's also some other platforms such as Retroboard that you could generate a QR code right in the meeting, disperse it at the time of the election, and then close the board, Retroboard, after the election has ended. And you can see a real-time tally of people who voted. And then change the QR code that you distributed. So I definitely have some ideas about how to capture those live votes.
Okay, I haven't heard of that mechanism before, but good to know. So
Thanks, Erica.
she is. Brandy, is that Avenues, Greater Avenues Community Council, got it. Okay. Do we have a plan going forward, it sounds like? Okay.
Plan for plan.
Yeah. Oh, man, that is what Ballpark Next is all about, plan for plan for plan for plan, it's lots of little fish.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
That was good.
It's such a great, public.
Well, I see it.
Thank you.
It's such a